Get a job in tech. So a little bit of explanation on what this podcast is. If you're trying to understand yourself better and what you have to offer the world, this podcast is for you. If you're out of work and you want some practical help, this podcast is for you. If you've been out of work for a long time and have been told you're now permanently unemployable, this podcast is for you. If you're on the edge of poverty these days, this podcast is for you. If you got some handicap, this podcast is for you. If you're trying to figure out a new career or your first career, this podcast is for you. If you're going to college and can't figure out what to major in, this podcast is for you. If you're trying to understand how the world, and particularly the world of work, really is these days, this podcast is for you. If you're trying to figure out what you want to do next with your life, this podcast is for you. If you just graduate from college and have to live with your parents because you can't find any work, this podcast is for you. If you're trying to figure out, so having said all that, how does this affect you? And what type of things can you do to understand your job hunting skills, really? Imagine you have a piece of paper, or you just take a piece of paper right now. Go ahead. I'll wait. Go ahead. Everybody will wait for you. Go take a piece of paper. Okay. You got it? Good. Okay. Take that piece of paper and draw a circle. Okay. That represents you. That is your level of influence. That is your level of knowledge for a job. Just a job. We're not talking about anything else. Just a job, right? From that circle, put me, put you, your name, right in the circle. And then I want you to start off with all the fast avenues or jobs out there that you think you could do. For instance, IT, for instance, nursing, for instance, construction worker, for instance, mechanical worker, or someone who makes, say, injection molding or works in a factory, okay? So each of those is a circle. Maybe you have one of those you can do. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do, whatever you're good at, right? So think of this. So let's start off here. Let's just backtrack and see where you are. You have the circle. That's you. From that circle, have an arrow pointing left, right, up, down, whatever. Draw another circle. That represents the knowledge you have right now. The what is you know right now. Off of that circle, what you know, that's the skill set you have now, what you do for a living, right? Let's just play with it. Let's say IT, right? Okay. So how could you get into IT? How could you do that? This is IT. I know IT, right? So I'm talking about IT. So let's say whatever you do, maybe you work at McDonald's or Walmart, or whatever, right? You want to know, how do I get to IT? And because you're very stuck in your mind. You're stuck in. It's hard, right? Obviously, making up your mind is probably the hardest thing to do to get really any job change. It's probably the hardest thing, really, to make up your mind and to have that confidence. And if you break it down and say, this circle is me, the other circle is what I know now, then from that second circle, draw another circle, line to that other circle. And that's the job, in this case, IT. So now factor in or just draw maybe what skills are needed for that. Maybe you don't know. That's okay. That's what we're here for, actually, right? So let's start off with this. Identifying how many hours you need per week. Okay, your current job, in that circle, I want you to put in how many hours a week you work. Maybe it's 40, 30, 20, whatever it is, right? Okay. And then also in that circle, you want to put a slash. So let's say you work 40 hours a week, slash, and I think there's how many hours in a week? 192, I think it is. Not sure. Anyway, whatever. So that's that. Okay. So 40 hours you're working, slash 192 hours in a week. So now you have a baseline. So that's a percentage. Figure out in your IT circle how many hours you want to dedicate per week to learn that. So out of 192 hours, right? You have 40 hours you work a week. So out of that, you probably sleep 8 hours a day. So that's 8 times 7, 56 hours a week. So 56 plus 40 is 96. So 96 hours a week, you either work or you go to sleep. So the other part you have to play with. That was way off, actually. It's actually 168 hours, so I had to do the math. So, okay. So you have 40 hours a week is your work, right? Plus 56 hours is your sleep. So 8 times 7, 56. That's 96 hours. Less 168 hours, which is per week. You have 72 hours to do anything. So in your IT circle, if you spend one day a week, maybe it's a Sunday, maybe it's a Saturday, one day a week, obviously, right, we're changing a habit here. We're changing a career, right? And it's going to have to build on itself. So at the first start, it has to be small. It has to be incremental. It has to be maybe 3-4 hours because it'll be easily to be overwhelmed. If you limit your time initially, you want to be excited about it. You limit yourself a little bit in the initial point. Later on, you can expand. So you figure 4 hours a week of just IT. What does that mean exactly? So in 4 hours a week out of 160 hours a week, 168 hours a week, 4 of that you dedicate for IT. So that's YouTube video. That's the course I have on Udemy. That's the course I have on Teachable. Either one of those two. And it's a 20-hour course. So I have a 20-hour course, and then I also have a 1-hour course. The 20-hour course will teach you everything you want to know getting a job in IT. It's very step-by-step. I explained how to install Windows and whatnot. So the YouTube videos are for learning how the internet works. That's the very first thing, probably, I would say. How does the internet work? I would YouTube that. So YouTube how the internet works. It's probably an hour. Not sure how long the videos are. And, really spend that first week figuring out how the internet works. What is this whole, computer stuff, right? What does all that mean? Anybody can teach you or tell you it, but if you watch a video, it's like that, the visual representation that you get different than somebody explaining it to you because, the analogies are different, right? Obviously. Okay. So your very first week, you watch videos, you watch YouTube videos about the internet, how the internet works, right? And just do that, continue that for a month. Do that for a month. 4 hours a week for a month. That's it. That's really right there. That's a start. Don't get overwhelmed here. Don't get too involved and get this grandiose plans and and planning your whole next 6 months or whatever, right? Because the likelihood is it won't work out that way. But if you take it week by week, 4 hours a week, and just build on it, and don't have any expectations of yourself, but just the expectation is that you do 4 hours a week. That's it. That's the only expectation of yourself that you want to have. The other thing while doing this is don't tell anybody you're doing it. You know, those positive patties or those negative Nels or whoever it is out there. The positive individuals who are positive, who are like, yeah, go, go, go. They could also be a detriment to your learning, because they could be wanting to help so much, and like, okay, train. Oh, let's go, and that could overwhelm you really quick. And the same thing with the negative Nel. Whereas they could say, oh, you don't want to learn that, and they could probably discourage you into learning or training yourself. So yeah, I would say just do it on your own and don't tell anybody. Keep it to yourself. And don't ask anybody's advice. Don't learn on your own, because you're going to get that satisfaction. This is initially, of course, right? Later on, of course, it's a little different. But initially, you got to figure you're just starting off here. You're just starting off in this IT field, and you don't want to finish it before it even starts. So, any influence, outside influence, good, bad, or indifferent, could hinder your growth. And for you to learn, you do it on your own. You don't tell anybody you're doing it, because that's you'll be in your own mind that way. You really think about what you want to have happen and just build on it, right? So again, this is just first couple weeks, first month, right? That you're doing this, and in subsequent podcasts, I'll talk it over the next plan, but take it step by step, day by day. Plan out 4 hours in a week and dedicate that time just for training IT. No matter what job you have, that 4 hours can be broken up into 1 hours increments. Say you're riding in the car and it's a podcast you're listening to. Riding in the car, listening to podcasts about IT. Maybe it's you're on a break at work and it's a half-hour break. You spend it watching YouTube videos on your phone, or maybe you're just before bed time and you spend that hour before bed watching YouTube videos on IT, something just basic computer stuff. Don't get overwhelmed in it, right? Just basic. How does the internet work? That's it right there. So, okay. Thanks everybody listening to this podcast, and have a great day.